This is Ibrahim Mustafa, writer and artist of Count, Sin, and Retroactive, and you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
There's a little bounce on that. It was nice.
I was happy.
It's near the hole.
Like a Brazilian butt lift.
Okay. I had to send Jason a message on the Slack saying, you know that Peter David's still alive, right? And he's like, dude, that was a joke. I was like, okay, I must have missed something in there. The jokey part. There we go.
I mean, it took you a week for it to hit you, though.
Because, no, here's the deal. I had the podcast player on in the car, and when the thing I was listening to finished, it launched ours. And I never listen to ours, but I was in a position, I was on the highway, I couldn't get rid of it until...
Throw it out the window.
Right, I couldn't get rid of it until the traffic allowed me to do so. So it ran until, the drink roll call, and I was like... What? Peter David? Because I caught it when you said it, but then I forgot about it. And then I remembered it listening to it after.
I was trying to go into reacting to it, and now that you just moved on.
Well, it was the intro, and the intro time is limited. And unfortunately, and this one is not.
And low hanging fruit. But you also have. I was over here scouring the other Slack, the EOC Slack, to find out what the hell did I miss a joke. Not thinking it took a second for it to click. Like, oh shit, we're talking about last week. But okay, yeah.
Right. Hey everybody, what up? It's 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 949. Ding. And I am Vince B.
You are Vince B. And I am David A. Price.
That is true. And of course, I'm Murder Crotch Slaughterface.
Wow.
You are not.
You don't
want to be.
I like that. Yeah. You are not Crotch Murder Slaughter Ass. You're Jason Wood, everybody. Together again on this good old-fashioned episode where we talk about nothing but comics. Brought to you by the awesome, I need a timpani, ding, cheapgraphicnovels.com. Cheapgraphicnovels.com have everything you want. We know what you want. OGNs, trade paperbacks, manga, omnibus edition, artist books. You want all that stuff. Cheap Graphic Novels has it for a fraction of what everybody else is paying. Look at the prices and compare. Check out the prices on cheapgraphicnovels.com. Go over to Amazon, search for the exact same thing, and I will bet you that Cheap Graphic Novels has it for less money. It's true. And after you place your first order, you will receive an email confirmation thanking you, alerting you to the fact that they did receive your order and it's coming, and you're going to reply to that email confirmation saying that 11 O'Clock Comics sent me, and Max is going to wave the magic wand of savings round and round and round and touch your beautiful forehead and say, I bestow upon thee free shipping on your next order. Savings on top of savings. cheapgraphicnovels.com. Just go. You will thank us.
You will. Love it.
Awesome.
The CGN fairy visited me twice since last episode.
Me too.
Wow.
Me too. Wow. Dude, Jason, can you just sit for a minute? That triangle omnibus is a freaking monster. It is gargantuan. I think it's the thickest omnibus that I own.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Thicker than Morrison's X-Men, or do you not have that one?
I don't have that. No, I don't.
It's such mockery.
I do not require
such contempt.
That. I enjoyed it.
Oh, if you have the singles, then yeah. Okay.
I don't anymore. I sold them.
Oh.
But, my friend, there is a huge difference between Morrison's X-Men and the Superman Triangle era stuff.
There's
one is worth saving and preserving, and the other was interesting to read, but I don't need it on my shelf.
I get that. I think maybe
I agree
the
with
first
you completely. Only we just on different sides of which one should be on.
Anyway,
you've never read the Triangle era books. Don't be funny.
Which is why he could say that right now. He'll change his mind once he reads it. I think maybe the first amazing Spider-Man omnibus might be kind of sick.
I don't have.
But regardless, yes, this thing is it's a beautiful thing. I wish I really wish though they did something with the hardcover. Once you remove the dust jacket, I get it. It's fine. I'm not looking at it for the cover, but I wish it's random when they decide what they want to print on the actual cover after you remove the dust jacket. Some of their collections are just a generic-y kind of graphic poppy looking blank cover, and others actually have art from the actual book inside.
Well, my way of thinking is if you're going to add production costs by doing a wraparound image on your actual covers, why do a dust jacket in the first place?
I know.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like usually the wraparound image on the cover is the same image on the dust jacket sans title or something along those lines. Then just print the title on the cover and just dispense with the dust jacket. It's a useless accoutrement. We don't need it. How about that? When I throw French into something, you know I'm serious. It's like Mr. Adams.
Very yes,
Gomez.
I understand.
All right. Cheapgraphicnovels.com. I am drinking from the Southern Tier Brewing Company a relatively unappealing brew called Juice Jolt. It's an extra juicy IPA. Y'all know I love the juice in my IPAs. And this is just, it's not good. But I had 3 cans of it, and I don't want them to go to waste, so I am drinking it. But it's not doing anything other than filling me with calories. Yeah. So you may ask, why are you drinking it? Because I don't like to waste stuff.
What's the ABV?
The ABV on this is, it's caution, too juicy. The ABV is 6.8. So not great, but it's not, it's not a toddler beer. Yeah.
Toddler beer.
I watched this guy on YouTube, Basecamp Chris. It's a camping, hiking / Bigfoot channel. And one of his things is, like us, he'll bring a beer with him wherever he goes. And he's like, oh, this one has 5% ABV. I'm going to have to be careful with this. I'm like, dude, 5%? Your body's not even going to register that. That's nothing. Dude. No. Well, no, he's not. He's tall, but he's not like bulky or anything. But the 5% is really 5% of 12 ounces is nothing. It's literally nothing.
He could be a lightweight.
Maybe he
like
is.
Raj.
Yeah. Oh, Raj is. He's really compact, but he's awesome.
Oh, he's absolutely awesome.
Yeah. So Juice Jolt, I wouldn't recommend it. How's that?
There you go. That's a hell of a commercial.
That's it. There you go.
Let's reach out for a sponsorship.
Yeah.
That's our sponsor spot.
I would not want to solicit Southern Tier as our sponsorship because it's been like a 60-40 spread for me. Yeah.
It's better hit rate than the big two have these days. But
what about? Well, you can actually do that now.
That's true.
Yeah.
I am drinking. Well, I just finished it. I was drinking a Red Bull sugar free.
Red Bull sugar free.
Okay. And the crowd goes flaccid.
Yes. Dap.
Save
us, Dap. You're our only hope.
I will. I am enjoying. Unfortunately, I had more than a double earlier with my neighbor, so I didn't think I was going to be in the mood for anything tonight. But after dinner, I says, you know what? I've got this bottle of Four Roses bourbon sitting here looking at me, so let me throw a little bit of that in a glass with a big-ass cube and a splash of seltzer, and it is hitting the spot.
You know what, Dap, I was thinking? The Superman Triangle era stuff, not to beat a beautiful horse, but aside from the vintage Marvel, like the Marvel era, 63 to my Marvel era, like say 63 to, I cut it off at 80. Right?
Okay,
that includes the Bronze Age stuff. That stuff is untouchable to me. I think the Superman Triangle era books are among the best superhero books ever published.
I would agree. Yeah,
right?
no. we have been clamoring for this forever.
It's been far too long.
So, I mean, even if like we treated this, if you and I got this and we read the first couple of issues from Adventures of and Action Comics, and we're like, wow, this is just like Secret Wars all over again. Like, I wouldn't care. I'm still be like, I'll lie to everybody. It's the best fucking thing I've ever read. I don't. It's all I've been. I don't know if I'm going to stop digging through the dollar bins for old issues, just because I don't know really how close I am to maybe a complete triangle replacing the triangle run from when I was buying off the shelf, buying off the rack, and because there was towards the end of the triangle run, especially after Action Comics Weekly wrapped up, I wasn't buying at the time, so those I don't miss as much. But if I can replace the old issues that I once had, I'm not saying I'm going to stop digging for those if they're cheap enough, but knowing that we hopefully will get more volumes of this,
well, I hope they finish the run. They have to finish the run.
I do too.
You can't initiate something and not finish it. I don't care if it takes another 5-7 years. You got to finish it. Why call something Volume 1 if there's not going to be a Volume 2?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. And I too.
You got me vexed about this 1980 thing. You can't actually mean that.
What do you mean?
He does.
Because we, dude, 1984-85, we all agree, you have said many times, is like some of the best comics ever.
Oh, I'm not talking industry. I'm talking Marvel.
Oh, just Marvel.
Yeah, just Marvel. Yeah. No, I'd be silly if I said industry.
What about Miller Daredevil?
Right, that's great, but that's an anomaly in that time. Like, there was a lot of shitty Marvel books around that time. Daredevil was a standout. Miller's the standout.
So you're just saying more like the golden era, like
right. My golden era.
Yeah. Okay.
Man Thing.
Like he was.
I would say 84-85 is like right up there, if not like at the top.
Oh,
of the list
no question. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, you've got Miller with Daredevil, but you also got Simonson with Thor. But again, that's after Vince's cutoff. So I mean, I
enjoyed Thor,
run,
but it
doesn't.
I like
doesn't
it a
fall
lot.
under the umbrella of
right. I mean, compare Thor under Simonson or Gerber's Howard the Duck. There's no comparison. See you, Thor. Like that's just my. I can't quit my golden age of Marvel. Those books will always really mean something to me. Is my critical assessment tainted by the fact that it was my golden age? Probably.
Mm-hmm. Wolfman Paris Titans isn't part because that's 80 and 80.
Oh no, I like the Titans a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Marvel, I guess Wolfman, I wouldn't have blinked if you said 83, 85. I'd be like, yeah, that's
all right. You know, just for you, I'll bring it up to 85.
Nice.
But I don't mean the entire industry. I just meant Marvel. But since 84, 85 is a really special time in comics, we'll cut it off there.
All right, nice.
Yeah. You happy now?
Love it.
Yes, very much.
All right.
Especially if we're done talking about the Triangle Era Omniboo until you guys.
No, we'll never be done.
I'm saying until you're like when you actually ready to talk about the contents of the book. I'm here for that.
Dap, you know what we should do for every episode? We should, because like on a news broadcast, you get the traffic report, and it's every broadcast. We should have all right. It's the Triangle Report. This episode we read issue blah, and we'll just talk about it, and Jason can go do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We're still working on,
and hopefully you'll read it with us. Like, I don't get it, dude.
That's what I'm saying. We're trying to work on.
They're great.
I mean, like the timing was off. Like, if we got this during like fantasy draft season, then he could be able to do that.
Oh, that would have been perfect.
Yeah,
but
that would have been.
You know what I found out the other day, Vince?
What?
Our boy Cliff. Yes. Has never read the Triangle Era stuff.
My!
I fell out of my seat. I fell out because he's read the history of the DC universe. He's read, I mean, everything that he's read from DC, all that old stuff.
Oh my goodness!
And it hurt my heart a little bit.
Yeah, it does a little.
We should get him the omnibus for his 50th.
The thing about the Triangle Era is the creative teams were smart to cherry pick the best stuff that Kirby introduced into the Superman mythology and run with it. It's almost a continuation of Kirby's run on Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. That's what the Triangle Era is. It's basically a continuation of what Jack did.
I was going to say, I have to say this the Triangle era definitely has creative continuity for the show too, because I do recall vividly back in the very earliest of our days when Niesman was a part of this, the three of you often talked about the Triangle era because he was a massive fan as well.
It's just good stuff, like really good stuff. Yeah. Dap, did you know that Tom Grummett did a book for Aircel? I didn't know this. It's only one issue.
Oh.
Yeah, it's only one issue of something. What the hell is the name of it?
Random, but okay.
Well, no, Grummett is a part of the whole Triangle era books, albeit on Superboy. But yeah, I forget.
Well, even before Superboy, he was the artist on. Was it? I think Adventures. No,
yes.
no. That was
Ordway. It was
Ordway
not action.
That. No, it wasn't action. Shit. Okay. Here you go.
I'm just happy that I can put Superman Triangle Era Omnibus in the show notes. But anyway, Jason, tell us, what have you read? Because I'm looking at your list, and you got some good stuff on there.
Well, word up. So the thing it's been on my list for a few weeks, but I do want to get to it because it's definitely one of the best things for me that I've read this year.
Wow.
Not really eligible for the O'Closkers, unfortunately, because it's not de novo. It actually ended last year. But now, before I get into it, remind me. I know because we've had some fun at the expense of Camelot 3000 over the years. But
yeah,
is your disdain for Camelot 3000 mainly about the book itself, or are you also is the Arthurian legend in general?
No, I have no problem with Arthur and his boys. I just think the Camelot 3000 visually very attractive.
Right.
Story-wise, I think it is boring as fuck.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And Dap, are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I have no problems with Arthurian lore or Camelot or anything like that, but Camelot 3000 is a whiff.
No, okay.
And one of the things that really turned me off on the book was they promoted the shit out of that book.
They did.
A revolution in comic storytelling, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I got the first, what? It's Bolin, so it looks really good, but it's
the reason I bring that up is because the book in question here is Once and Future.
You shot me right down.
Yeah. Well, because I don't want to go on a big tangent about Camelot.
I got it. It's not worth it. That's more than enough time spent on Camelot 3000.
Precisely. My love for Arthurian legends started with Excalibur, the movie, which came out in 1981.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, and a very young Liam Neeson. I mean, he probably was in his early 20s then, I would assume. But anyway, so I was always like, that captivated me for some reason. I thought, well, that's cool. And I've always kind of pursued like that started me being interested in Arthurian legend, just in general, anytime I could come across something of it. So the book in question is Once and Future. I reread a big chunk of it and then finished it. So I read this mainly in hardcover. The first volume hardcover came out during the pandemic. Collected issues, the first 3 arcs, 1 through 18. And then I've been waiting, like many, for the second hardcover because the series ended over a year ago. I believe it ended in October or November of 22, if I'm not mistaken. So it had been well over a year since it ended. And we finally got the hardcover. It came in my shipment maybe about a month ago. And that collects 19 through 30. So a clean 30 issue run over a few years, written by Kieran Gillen, with incredible art by Dan Mora, who was also doing other books during this run, which is just absurd. I don't know how this guy does it, but we did talk about the first, like the start of the series back then, way back when. It would have been probably 3-4 years ago at this point. So this isn't the first time we've mentioned it, but at the heart of it is Arthurian legend. But Gillen really does some pretty awesome stuff. I should also mention Tamara Bonvillain is the colorist, and I think her work plays a big role in making this book great too. So she deserves a shout out. But the premise at like the start of the whole thing is relatively straightforward, which is that in modern day times, it's modern day England. This guy Duncan Maguire, who he's a museum curator. He doesn't know this, but he is born into a family that is somewhat involved with and/or a protector of the realm. And shit starts going wild, like strange stuff starts happening, and he quickly gets embroiled into this like grand adventure, spearheaded in part by his grandmother, this woman, Bridget. And Bridget is a retired monster hunter who is steeped through an organization she's been a part of her entire life, this other part of the world, which is where there is Arthurian legend, and the magic of it is actually real in this world. This is a world without superheroes and the like. Most people just think the world is the world, and something has caused the forces at play to resurface after centuries. So, in other words, like they're starting to see Arthurian related happenings, and that brings Bridget, reluctantly out of retirement, and she gets Duncan involved for reasons that get unfolded. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that Duncan was raised by Bridget's daughter Mary, in part in a way that would allow him to be Percival. And where this gets really cool, at least to me, is that Gillen took the idea of Arthurian legend and weaved it into this very comic booky, over the top, massively cool fantasy, like fighting, magic wielding adventure. And what I mean by the idea of Arthurian legend is that I think people that aren't into it probably just think like, oh yeah, Knights of the Round Table, Merlin, the whole thing, and that's all part of it. But the cool thing is that the legend that we kind of reference back is really a confluence of centuries of writing about these characters. It wasn't just like one person that created this story and it just lived through time. It was originally created, like Arthur was originally referenced way back in like the 5th or 6th century. It's hard to date all the way back, but like by like in poems, there was a guy named Gododin who was from the 7th century, and that version of Arthur was basically effectively a hero. Like it was like a hero epic. There wasn't much to it beyond that. And then in the 12th century, there's a dude named Geoffrey of Monmouth, and he wrote this thing called the Historia Regum Britanniae, which a big part of what he wrote is all about King Arthur, who he brings in a lot of what we now consider like the legend when we think of it, which is he brought in the idea of like Arthur being the protector of the realm, protecting the purity of Britain from outsiders. He brings in the sword and the stone. He brings in Merlin as this wizard who's also an overseer and mentor to Arthur. And it goes from there. There's a French poet, and I'm probably totally butchering his name, but I believe it's Chrétien de Troyes. And in the 12th or 13th. Oh, nice. Okay. He brings in like the Knights of the Round Table, and he brings in the Grail component and Lancelot and the quest for that. And Guinevere, and then you go on from there, and then there's these things called the Vulgate and post-Vulgate cycles, which bring in things like the Lady of the Lake, and actually change the Grail to include Percival and Galahad. And my point is like, and it keeps going from there. There's Sir Thomas Malory, who does stuff in the 15th century, which brings in a lot of the magic stuff, and Morgana Le Fay and all of that, and all of these things that we're talking about, right? Like when you think of King Arthur, all of those things get mashed together. And what Gillen did with this is he creates this world where, if it's kind of like one of those things where if enough people believe something to be true, it is true in this world. So what happens?
So you mean like the real world?
Yeah, pretty much. But like it's manifest, but with a fantastical element where it gets manifested into reality. So
like the real
in
world.
this,
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. In this world, there not only do we start seeing, not only does Arthur come back from the dead and Merlin comes back from the dead, but different versions of these characters start appearing, which causes all measure of chaos because there are different versions of these characters throughout history. And there's a and Mora works his magic because he realizes it's comics and he can, draw it however he wants it. Each of these versions is drawn totally differently. Like there's the main antagonists are drawn like resurrected demons, like almost like the cover of like an Iron Maiden, like that like sunken. They look like maybe like the antagonists from Game of Thrones, like undead basically, but in their full armor, and they wield power, and they're that's like the main visual representation. But then there's another representation which are more heroic, and Moro draws them like Super Sentai in like these super modern clean battle suits, which is really neat. And he goes from there, and there's all these different versions that kind of lead to this crescendo of battle for supremacy, and because they're all fighting for like conceptual things against one another, the literal fate of the world is at hand. And you've got Duncan, his grandmom, and then Rose, who's Duncan's lover, all essentially fighting at breakneck pace, trying to piece all this together and stop all this from happening. And it's just incredibly well thought out. Like, if you have even a mild passing interest in Arthurian legend, the brilliance of taking all of these different disparate concepts and then threading them through it is wonderful. But then he takes the natural extension of that, which is that just as the Arthur from the 5th century is different from the Arthur from the 12th century, the idea of Arthur continues to evolve into this modern version, such that people like Duncan are the new Percival, and he wields that power. He can go and find the Grail. His mom, Mary, who's the one that brings Arthur back for reasons that we don't have to get into, but for dumb reasons at the beginning of the book, she has another child out of wedlock, so she gives birth to Galahad, and because Galahad can find the Grail, and Rose ends up becoming multiple characters, ultimately becoming an Arthur herself. Bridget's a Morgana Le Fay. There's and different people they meet along the way become the modern day entities that allow them to be part of the lore and execute the prophecy. So some people like Bridget's husband is the Fisher King, and so if she kills him, it gives them passageway into the other realm, right? Which is again from the lore, and it's like they actually trick people into taking on these roles such that they can like access the castle or go to Camelot, and it's all very breakneck. It's like, well, let's see, we need a Percival, we need a Lancelot. Who can be a Lancelot? Well, this person's pure of heart and right, and then like, okay, they're just enough to be a Lancelot. Let's see if we can get that to work, and it's fascinatingly well put together. But because it's comics, it's like you've got Mora drawing these crazy over the top situations where they're fighting, massively overpowered, monsters and mythical creatures and of course knights and wizards. You've got all kinds of different British related fairy tales that are weaved into this that aren't necessarily Arthurian but are part of it. So you've got Robin Hood in it. You've got the Green Knight. You've got the idea of fairies, but these fairies he draws the fairies to look like basically they have horrible serrated teeth in their stomachs, and they're blind, and they fly at you in swarms and eat you. And Beowulf's in it. Grendel's in it. Grendel's mother's in it. Gorgon, Lady in the Lake, the Dark Druid. All the Knights of the Round Table, just it goes on and on and on, and it's just once it starts in the first issue where they're basically fighting this giant creature that's trying to kill Duncan, and then it does not stop until the very end of the series where the main Merlin essentially takes on the form of a gigantic mythical dragon, and they have this big battle at the end. It was wonderful. I mean, if you have any passing interest in Arthurian legend or just high fantasy in general, I think this is one of the best fantasy books of the last decade easily. Wow. And I can't believe that Mora drew all this, and he did it on a pretty regular schedule, and he did it while he was also drawing stuff for DC, which I do not know how that is even possible. It is it should be physically impossible for him to have done this, but he did it. And it's over, it's done, it's complete. It was hugely satisfying. 5 arcs. Each arc, has its own distinct case, but ultimately this is one big tale, one big adventure of them trying to stop this resurrected Arthur and Merlin from destroying the world. And I loved it. I loved every page of it, and I cannot recommend it enough.
Wow. It sounds complex.
It is very complex, and I was trying to sort of smooth it out, but it is... it's not, it's one of those things where if you're interested as you're reading it, you can, do some Google sleuthing and flesh out like who these characters are that you meet and why they're significant. And for me, that was an additive because it reinforced like how well thought out Gillen's ideas were.
Right.
They weren't just like randomly slapped together. But I think if you're not into that kind of extra work and you just want to read something for what it is, I think it's still very entertaining.
Sounds to me, though, that your appreciation of the work hinges entirely on the fact that you read it all at once. I'm guessing if you read
it's interesting. I mean,
in single
I can't
issue
speak
form,
to that because
it sounds really dense to me. And I'm thinking if I read this on a monthly basis for 30 issues, which we're talking whatever time, I probably wouldn't appreciate it on the level that you did because I would definitely be my memory would have jettisoned things by the time I got to like the 15th issue.
Well, a couple things on that. One, I don't disagree, but I read it in one chunk. Two, to your point, I read the first hardcover when it came out, which was 18 issues. I reread those 18 issues and before opening up the second hardcover.
There you go.
And if I hadn't, I think I would have been a little bit more lost. So I don't disagree with your underlying. But for me, I mean, that's how I kind of feel about most comics these days. Like I don't generally, whatever muscles are involved in reading monthlies, I don't have that anymore. So I almost never, there's very few comics that I read as they come out monthly anymore. Like it's less than probably a dozen. So
Ghost Machine aside, I got your back, beautiful man, because I like reading things in chunks as well. Yeah, I find the concept of the Holy Grail laughable. I guess I should clarify. Your theologians or your historians can't decide what the frig the Holy Grail is. Is it the chalice? No. Is it a dish? Is it a rock? What is it? What is the Holy Grail? Has there been a definitive? Have they decided once and for all, once in future, what the Holy Grail is? Like, I don't think so.
No, but that's the cool thing in this. He plays with that idea, right? Like in the book, in Once in Future, the Grail is different things. Like
that's kind of neat.
That's what I mean. Like one of the points of him doing this was acknowledging that mythology and lore evolves with belief, and that what the Grail is to one person is not what it is to the other, but they could both be right in this world because magic exists, right? But like, so that's kind of the thing. The thing that Mary and her counterparts want Arthur to be, or want the Grail to be, are vastly different than what Bridget and Duncan and Rose want it to be, right? And that's part of the story, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, if you are a believer and you are certain that Jesus at one time trod the earth, then magic did exist on this planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that just plays into that. I mean, I don't mean magic with a K the way we have it now. I mean, water into wine, honest to Kirby magic. If you believe in the Jesus, then you also believe that magic existed on our planet.
Yeah. Well, it was Detroit who brought the whole Christianity aspect in to the mythos. Like before that, there was no Christianity to the Grail. He tied it to and
this sounds intriguing. It does. It sounds.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then like that example, Grail example, then carried over into things like Indiana Jones, right? Like that's like which is.
Then you get the Ark of the Covenant, which is a whole nother story.
Yeah. It was great.
The Ark of the Covenant, and then you had the Grail in the third movie.
Yeah,
exactly.
The Cup of Christ, which you had to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a cup. That's great for your religion. Our holy relic is a cup. I'm just being facetious. Like Dap, I too got 2 boxes from cheapgraphicnovels.com this past week. And you know me, when I believe something to be true, I can't lie. I have to speak my mind. And I read what is definitely my choice for OGN of the Claskers for this year. I don't see anything beating this book. Maybe the Charles Burns thing that's coming to my next box is going to be close, but I don't see anything I read from now until the end of the year eclipsing anything I've read prior to reading this or after. Are you curious?
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're with bated breath.
It is by Dash Shaw. It's called Blurry. And it is absolutely amazing. It's a monster work, though. Like Dash Shaw usually does. This thing is huge. It's almost 500 pages long. And it's an Altman-esque ensemble story. Like there's 4, 7, 10 characters weaving their way through this. And what he'll do is he'll start with a character and allow the narrative to progress to a point where he has the ability to split the narrative or go in a different direction with another character that kind of, sort of, is tied to the previous character, but maybe not. But by the time the book is done, by the time you've finished all these 500 pages, all of these characters are interconnected in some way. It's insane. The title Blurry comes from one of the characters. Her name is Mel, and she needs glasses and wears glasses because when she doesn't wear them, things are indistinct. She has to squint and try extra hard to bring things into focus and to discern what's happening in front of her. That's the entire crux of this book. It is decision making, how certain aspects of our lives are amorphous and we can't piece them together and we don't know why, and so they're blurry and indistinct, and it takes some kind of work, some kind of effort to pull these things. You may not, some of these characters may not even know that their lives are lacking, but they eventually do in a way, and it plays off of the blurriness in a way that it's stated in one chapter where Mel's looking at a bunch of kids. Or is it Mel? One of the characters is looking at kids playing, and she's looking at the shapes of the kids, the positive, but she's also looking at the negative, the shapes in between their limbs and the shapes around them, how the shapes around them define the shapes within, right? And if you look at the trade dress on this, I hate that phrase, but I'm going to use it. If you look at the trade dress, all of the typography on the cover, it delineates the spaces between the letters and the letters themselves. And that's a big, big, big part of this book, how we are shaped by both external and internal forces. That's all this book is, that things impact our lives from within and without. And it's just absolutely amazing. It's slice of life, Jason. So I don't know if you're going to enjoy this, but it's there's a writer who broke into the business at a very young age. A tragedy occurred in their lives. Her name is Christy, and she wrote an autobiography, a journal, or a memoir of what happened, and it caught fire, and she blew up at a very young age. And so she'd go on these speaking tours, and she wasn't greeted with the proper, I don't know if respect is the word, but because she was so young, people were just like, yeah, well, okay, this 26-year-old girl is going to tell us, her life experiences. She's still wet behind the ears, right? And so she writes a totally different book, a young audience, a young reader book, and she changes her pen name, and the book tanks. But then a publisher scoops it up and wants a sequel, and they publish both of them, and those books blow up. And she writes a series of those books under an assumed name, and she never goes back to her original pen name. And she was struggling with the fact that she was basically invisible. Like this nom de plume was the star, and she was in effect nothing. But she was actually writing the books, right? So because it was an assumed name, she felt like she didn't have any identity. But then, obviously, the story works out. There's an artist model who is struggling. There's a woman who is stepping out on her husband with a professor, an art teacher, and she decides to break it off, but he doesn't want it broken off, and his existence transforms along the 500 pages, and her existence. Like, I don't want to reveal too much of it, because I think it's one of those things where you have to experience all these stories yourself, and that may be, low-hanging fruit saying that, where it's, I don't want to spill the beans. I don't want to spill the beans, because I think this is a very important book. If nothing else, it shows you that Dash Shaw can write a damn good story. Everything is planned out in this book. I don't want to say masterpiece, but it's damn good. Like, it is, it's a challenging read, but it's not complex like Once and Future. There's not a whole lot of heavy lifting. These are just real people living their lives, and things happen, and they have to either consciously or unconsciously make decisions, like we all do, right? This is the way the world or existence works. But in Shaw's hands, like, it is extremely compelling. And he slams home the concept of external and internal forces through the entire narrative. Like, at the end, the last 2 pages, this is not spoiling anything. Last 2 pages, the guests at a wedding are dancing, and it's a full page. And you see all of the shapes of the people dancing, and on the facing page, everything, all of the detail of the people is excised, and the background turns black. So you see the shapes without, and you see the shapes within. So the concept of this book is carried throughout. It's in every. It's not broken up into chapters, but it's in every arc of these characters' lives, and it is absolutely amazing. Like, I don't know how he pulled it off. There's a lot of threads weaving through these
he's
things.
A talented dude.
No, he really is. Yeah.
The book is literally sitting 3 feet from me.
Yeah, it's a masterwork. It just blew me away. And even though it was close to 500 pages, when I closed the cover, I opened the front and read it again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be all over this in a minute.
I really think you'll love it.
Oh yeah.
This book is tailor made for you. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Again, one of the characters, Fiona, is reading, and she's looking at a printed page, and she's seeing words, and then the next panel, she's seeing the spaces between the words as little black blobs, and then she sees the spaces between the letters, and then she sees the shapes inside of the letters. Like, that's the whole concept of this book.
Love it.
We are shaped by external forces and internal forces. It's amazing. I can't put it any plainer than that.
Mm-hmm.
But to get too far into the details would be doing everybody listening a disservice. So I will say, from New York Review Comics, Dash Shaw's Blurry, it's a must read. If you're going to take any of those best of lists seriously for this year, and you want to contribute and give it an honest shot, you need to read this, because you need to weigh this book against everything else you've read. Chances are really good. Everything else is not going to compare to this book.
Yeah, I love it. You're going strong to the hole on this. Respect.
No, I mean, I commit, right? And this is what I believe.
Love it, yeah.
I finished this book. I read it twice, and I walked away from it saying it's incomparable. There's really nothing I've read this year that actually comes even close to what this book does. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. It's now at the top of my stack. It's been sitting here waiting to be read now.
Yep.
Crush it.
New York Review Comics are my new picture box.
Yeah, I was going to say, I told you, I after we had that conversation a month ago, I went and caught up and ordered a bunch of shit from him. I ordered like 4 books from him. Yeah.
Yep.
If I get this, I think this might be the first
What?
actual Dash Shaw book I have in my home.
Are you sure? Because
Wow.
you didn't read Body World? I thought you did.
No.
Well, and you read Clue. Oh, Chris read Clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm woefully lacking in
Bottomless
Dash Shaw.
Belly Button either. No New School.
I read that. Yeah, I
No,
have them
know.
all.
I'm saying for DAP.
No.
You will love it, Dap. It's right
Good.
in your right in your wheelhouse. Yeah. Yep.
All right, maybe Max will get an email. I love that we're all kicking off this week's episode with things we thoroughly enjoyed.
Bangers, dude. Bangers to the left of me. Bangers to the right of me.
Yeah. This was when our good buddy Austin posted this on the Slack a few months ago because it was
Congrats
just an
to him
Instagram
for
post.
his martial arts victory.
Yes, absolutely. Way to go, my man.
He has a jaw that can break a brick. Like
Yes.
respect. He cuts a great profile.
Straight men
Really
want to
does.
be him, and gay men want to sleep with him.
It's true. I can see that. Yep, I get it.
As the memes can attest, yeah.
Yes.
But this was something that this one shot is written by Kyle Starks, illustrated by Kyle Hotz and Dan Brown on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. It is the Lobo Cancellation special, and it is it's a fantastic one shot, but it is and obviously this is recency bias, but it's one of my favorite Lobo stories. Just because, just for a variety of reasons. One of which is that it's a self-contained book. We've gone for years before Lobo had his ongoing series. Everything Lobo, with the exception of the Paramilitary Christmas special, were a 4-issue miniseries. And this probably could have been if Kyle wanted to kind
easily.
Bring it back to that 90s feel. But and what's great about this, and another reason why I love that it's a one shot, is every time I thought maybe the issue was nearing its end, something else happens to continue the story in a great way. I just thought that it's not just a straightforward Lobo's coming, takes care of business, and then goes about his day. I'm not going to say there were layers here, but what I love about it, another thing, is that right on the first page, it tells you this story takes place, Vince, at a very specific moment in time between the events of the Omega Man number 3 and this year's Superman number 15. You could figure out when.
Jesus, that's a
and
pretty
I'll slash
broad.
someone's tires for you.
That's a pretty broad stretch.
Exactly, because it is from his very first appearance to his most recent in the Brainiac War, and it's beautifully illustrated. We get Lobo's on this no technology back asswards planet that he's got no way to get off of. He cannot leave this planet because he doesn't have his bike. He was traveling, just having a good old time. It's obviously well after Omega Men, because he's in his Bite Me fanboy vest with the whole leather and the crotch protector. But he's after having some drinks, getting a load on. He's riding his bike through space, and all of a sudden, he's lost in the middle of nowhere, and he's bumped off his bike, falling towards the nearest planet, and completely naked because, of course, his clothes burned off, entering the atmosphere. And when he lands, one of my favorite phrases now is he was pisser mad. He was just, and he's thrashing the residents, the citizens of this planet, just complete carnage and near genocide. He did everything. He saved one small area, probably because he didn't want to be lonely. He didn't want to be alone, because we get a little bit of a flashback when, as he's the last Caesarian, he obliterated everybody on the planet, and therefore, because it was at such a young age, he was very, very much alone. So it's implied that the reason he kept some people alive is so that he wouldn't be alone. But it turns out he's able to get off the planet because a king needs his daughter rescued, the princess rescued. So this ship full of aliens come. They offer him the contract, and they get him off the planet. And we not necessarily side quests, but we find out that he needs to go and get his bike, because he finds out where his hog is. He has to go get that. He has to go get his clothes, and so that's a whole bunch of pages, again, rendered magnificently. I mean, the aliens that are sitting here playing poker and around the bar, absolutely phenomenal. Kyle outdid himself here, and because the last time I think I saw Kyle was on a fill-in issue on the Immortal Hulk a few years back. So, and I know he's done work since then, but that's the last sequential story I remember reading. He finds the person who bumped him off his hog way back when, because he was on this planet for a good long while, for years, and so he was on this planet for so long that people thought Lobo had died, and other evil bastages have tried to make a name for themselves, and they have decided that they're the most evil people in the universe, and forget about Lobo. So Lobo has to set the record straight. But he finds the person who basically screwed him up so that he landed on that planet. And then he's got to get back to the mission at hand, which is, of course, rescuing the princess. And again, he handles that situation more or less. And you could think, okay, I mean, obviously, yes, that ends a little, that could end the story a little cleaner than what you might be used to with a Lobo tale. So there's probably still more to unfold, but it and there is. So again, we get some more of the story, but it is done so well. I just had an absolute blast with this. The colors are amazing. The story's a lot of fun. We get I like what Kyle added to the character. He definitely sounds like Lobo. It's hard to. No one's going to replace Giffen and Grant, but it's still an extremely well done tale featuring the main man. The supporting cast is amusing. At no point was I did I feel like I was gypped, or this wasn't Lobo, or this was just a cash grab because Lobo hasn't had a solo story by himself in a while, because we had the 3-issue Superman versus Lobo series by that Tim Seeley co-wrote. He, of course, has shown up in Superman recently, so we haven't had just Lobo in a while. So this was great to see. But I absolutely had a blast is an understatement. This was one of the funnest books I've read in a minute, and I am so happy that Kyle and Kyle got together to do this. I hope they do more. I would love to see them. I would love to see this as an annual event. I would love to find out if they want to continue working on the character together. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, we get some backstory from from Lobo's time when he was a kid. Which adds to it and gives gives the reader maybe a little bit more of a sympathetic twist to the character. Uh, I I think it's just a lot of fun. It's violent, it's gory as hell, but yeah, it's definitely something that. I mean, obviously, if you're a Lobo fan, you're already getting it. But if if you're a Kyle Starks completist and thought maybe him doing Peacemaker with DC was good enough, or that's that's all you need from him with the mainstream stuff after Marvel Unleashed. And you don't care if he does any big two things, but I would absolutely recommend this for anybody who may have been on the fence. But it's an absolute blast, and I do know
Bro,
that Jason read it.
you didn't even mention Murder Crotch Slaughterface, bruh.
How you introduce yourself as that? How am I going to take
I'm
away your
saying.
big moment?
Saying.
As
Great
soon as
movie.
he said that name, I was thinking of Taserface from Guardians
Oh, yeah.
2. But I just I mean that dude could have his own book. He is a he could have, but he's a very very imposing character and visually is the stuff of nightmares. But
Yeah.
I it was and he handled Lobo pretty damn well at the start.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which again wasn't something that I was expecting, but I mean just Kyle's humor, the way he approaches a story. Yeah, I thought it was all done really well. What did you think about it, Jason?
I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I honestly that I was far more interested in seeing what you thought of it because of your affinity for Lobo. Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I mean, it's one of those things where we often will get questions, right? When we do, like when we say, "Hey, let's do a Q&A," and we get questions. I feel like fairly frequently we'll get some version of like, "Well, what would be your perfect pairing of creators to do your perfect book?" You know, like who would be your perfect Batman writer and artist, or who would you? And a lot of times I find that those questions hard to answer
Sure.
because it's like you kind of know it when you see it. And a lot of creators I think are more than capable of telling great stories with lots of different ideas. But anyway, point being, I don't know that if you had asked me, well, who would be a perfect creative team for a Lobo story, I don't know if Kyle and Kyle would have been my picks. But then after reading this, I thought, well, shit, like this is one of those things like when you're like you have that aha moment, you're like, well, why didn't someone think of this 10 years ago? Like, I mean, like fucking Kyle Starks is a perfect writer for the character because of his ability to do humor, and Hotz is like his style is like, I mean, it's just perfect for this kind of over muscled, bombastic, grimy, hyper detailed world. It's just I was like, okay, well, this is a perfect pairing. Like whatever editor put these guys together, or however this came about. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it was Starks pitching it or Hotz pitching it, I have no idea. Like the how this all came together. But whoever was responsible for having these guys come together to do the story deserves mad kudos because it just felt like, okay, yes, this is a perfect writer and artist for this story. Like this is perfect, and such that like you could easily then play the game of like swapping out the writer or the artist for someone else, and you're thinking like, nah, it wouldn't have been as good. Like, nope, it wouldn't have been as good. Right? Like it's just so to me that's like great comics when you look at a creative team and you think like I can't picture another creative team doing this as well as as it was just done.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yep.
Nice. My dogs are
Your dogs
freaking
are
out.
nuts, Vince.
They're going nuts.
Dogs and barking.
Chupacabra
it's-
time.
No, it's my son probably instigating them. Yeah. I opened it. I looked through it. I thought the art was chef's kiss, but I wasn't compelled to read it. Sorry. But it looks great. I totally
You
agree
love
with
Kyle Starks though.
I do. I just wasn't in the right headspace to read Lobo after
If you saw the DC logo.
that. Well, no, don't be silly. Nah, it's just the things I've read this week were not were so far removed from Lobo that I just wasn't feeling it. So I didn't read it.
I get
got
it.
you.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no, I get that.
That happens.
Yep.
It's not going anywhere.
Just to real quick.
Oh, I
because
have
this
it.
doesn't deserve-
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I was going to say this doesn't deserve more than 15 seconds of the show, but I did dive into Wolverine Revenge #2 just to see if maybe
Same.
it was
I
fucking
didn't
weak
yet.
sauce,
It's
bro. It was
rough.
worse.
Okay.
It's
It was
rough.
worse than the first
Yeah.
because I think, and again, maybe I'm just projecting because of my feeling on the book, but I didn't think Capullo's art looked that great. I thought
It's a total whiff. I
felt it looked less. I felt it looked rushed. It looked less polished than even the first issue did, and it's just like I'm like, oh, this is coming up.
Yep, I got your back.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for taking one for the team.
We do.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We do from time to time.
But let's talk. Every week I feel like we're talking about turtles here. But last week when we talked about turtles, I got size frustration. So are we happier with this week's version of turtles? Or no?
Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
See, you're weird, man. Okay. Go ahead, because I haven't given my 2 cents on it, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about Turtles of Grayskull #1, written by Tim Seeley, art by Freddie Williams II. It is a mashup, of course, by the title of the TMNT Bros heading to Eternia and being part of the Motu. So go ahead, have at it.
Well, the draw for me, in addition to Mr. Seeley, who is a scholar of all things Masters of the Universe. So when I saw his name on the cover, I knew, okay, this is going to be a good story, right? And it's Turtles, drawn by Freddie Williams. You know how I feel about Freddie. I think Freddie's a powerhouse, and this book was, the visuals were mwah. They were gorgeous. There are some pages where you see all the combined forces of Eternia and the Turtles, and I'm like, this has got to go for a good amount of money, because if you're a fan of either property and you're a collector of original art, I don't see how you would not want to own a couple of the pieces from this book.
Toys are coming out
they're out now.
Well.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I just found it a little strange. I mean, the story was fun, and there's callbacks to Eastman and Laird characters, which was not only the Turtles, but fan favorite characters appear within the narrative. But there's a recap. Very early into the story, there's a recap. A long-ass recap of how the Turtles got to Eternia. They were chasing Baxter Stockman's Mousers or something, and one thing led to another, and they slid across the dimensions, and they noticed that Krang and Shredder and Skeletor are working together, and Krang is giving them the mutagen, and Skeletor is using it in new ways to make to transform the Snake Mountain people and himself in new and different ways. And then the Turtles meet Man-at-Arms and Teela, and they did a thing, and then something else happened. And this is all on one page, right? This long ass recap. And I'm thinking, Tim, wait a minute. Did I miss something? Was there a series before this? So I did a little searching, and there wasn't a series before this. And I reached out to Tony, because Tony's tight with Tim, and I said, Tony, ask Tim, like, what's the deal? Did I miss something, or is this like a storyline that was explored in a cartoon that I never saw, or is it on the backs of the figures that this stuff happened? Like, where did this happen? And he's like, no, Tim said, no, it's just a recap. It's just a recap. You don't have to know anything going in. But the thing that immediately popped into my mind was, this sounds cool. All this recap stuff sounds really neat. Why didn't you write that story? Like, why did you waste all this brain power? Not waste. I don't want to say waste. Why did you expend all this brain power coming up with a story that happens before the first issue of this miniseries and let us know all about it? It's like FOMO. I'm reading all this stuff and I'm thinking, wow, Freddie would have illustrated the shit out of that. Why am I not seeing that? I mean, albeit the story that followed was good, But it just seemed very odd that it's like, this is what happened. When you're watching a TV series and it starts and it says previously on NCIS, and you see these little capsule beats from previous storylines, and you're like, okay, and you feel like there's something you haven't seen. Like you should have been more informed, or there's parts of the stories that you didn't experience firsthand, but you're hearing them in recapitulation. It's odd to me that Tim would go through this lengths doing a giant ass recap of something we've never seen. Didn't seem odd to either of you?
That recap, aside from the phone call with Splinter, was my favorite thing about the issue. I love that there's no editor's notes, there's no footnotes, there's no like previous, there's no, hey, you can read the whole thing in something volume. I loved that Tim was just like, I'm telling this story, the turtles are already there, doesn't matter how they got here. Okay, fine, I'll tell you in one page how they got here, and boom, we're back to it. It didn't bother me that, I mean, yes, maybe as a completist or because you do love it when Freddy works on the Turtle team-up books and you're a fan of Tim and you're a fan of Motu.
I am.
I get that you'd be looking for something and be like, okay, what did I miss? I absolutely understand, because I'd be the same way if it was something about Trek or anything like that. I'm like, okay, something's definitely, I didn't see this. When did this happen? Because if I didn't see it happen, how do I know it happened? They could just be making it up. It didn't print elsewhere. But I thought that was just, maybe if Tim didn't think that whole thing, if he didn't want to do a zero issue to lead into this, then, and it's not worth a whole separate series just to get the Turtles to that, we got everything on one page. I'm not liking it totally more because it's twisting your nipples, but I thought because it was right here, that was all I needed. I thought it was a great, because you don't see that anywhere these days.
No, you don't. That's why it was atypical. But dude, this is totally out of character for you. If it was something, I don't know what you ate today, but this is not David, because normally you would be like, what is this? We didn't see this. It's like
I said, if this happened with Trek, I'd probably be like, yeah, something.
It's like sitting down watching The Empire Strikes Back, and you're watching The Crawl, and it's like the Death Star was destroyed, and you've never seen A New Hope.
Okay, well then, case in point, how did everybody feel then when we're sitting down watching episode 4 for the first time and we have no idea where the first 3 chapters are?
Exactly.
No, but they didn't matter in the story. They told you everything you need to know in The Crawl.
And that's what he's doing here with one page.
It's weird. Dude, it's
or a page
weird.
And a half.
I'm breaking the tie here. I'm with Dap.
It's weird.
I thought it was brilliant because normally when you have these crossovers, the obligatory thing is that you have an issue 2 of like a 4 or 5 issue thing showing us how they get together, and that could be fine. But like, I love that he was like, "Nah, I don't want to spend time. I got 4 issues. I want to have them doing what they're doing." So I thought it was a really well designed structural way to get all that stuff out of the way and just get to the fucking. Get to the fucking.
It's okay. Here, I'm going to give you a 4-book sci-fi fantasy series, but I'm going to keep the first book. Don't worry about it. They recap it in the first couple pages of the second book. You'd be like, wait a minute.
Oh wait, well, why would them chasing mousers and then going through a portal have added to what the story he's telling here?
Because that's cool. That's fun. I want to see the first meeting between. It's more fun to see
the Turtles in Eternia wearing fucking He-Man armor fighting He-Man villains
and Page Boy wigs.
Plus, yes, absolutely with the Page Boy. But I think also if we saw it play out, and maybe that could be another reason why I thought it was brilliant, is that we get a really tender emotional moment with Splinter and his boys, especially at the end with Donnie. But and so because of that flashback, and we know now that April and Splinter haven't seen the boys for a while, it adds the emotional impact for me on that. But I thought that part was
good. It was like, hey, this Man-at-Arms guy, he thinks that maybe sometimes he shouldn't have told Prince Adam. He shouldn't have did the thing that made Prince Adam.
Let him be. Yeah, just let him be a boy. Let him grow up.
Did you ever think that about us? And Splinter's like, I can't, dude. I just can't. I can't. Why did you say that? And April's like, oh, she's hugging him. Yeah, it was cute, and I liked it a lot. I enjoyed the issue, but it's just, Yeah, that recap page was like a major tease. Like it was, and
Beautiful page, though.
I like. Oh yeah, I like cheesecake. I really do. There are times when I would rather have a hint of what's under there and not see what's under there. So that's great. But I just thought, like, when it's the Turtles, man, and Masters of the Universe, and you're telling me that we teamed up with Teela and Man-at-Arms and we did this, like, I want to see that. You can't show me that in one panel. I want to see I want the saga. Whatever. No, I think...
Well, it's not a 12-issue maxi series. He was probably like, we have 4 issues to get what we want to get.
Yeah, get it in.
Right. And Tim's, Tim's
I mean, it is
really
published
good.
by Dark Horse these days, so, I mean, we want to make sure it finishes.
Strict page count,
Freddy should be on everyone's tip of everyone's tongues. Freddy's just unbelievably good. And
it's fascinating to me that he's pretty much committed a good decade of his life now to doing licensed crossover work. Like, it just must be the thing he likes to do.
But like Turtles licensed crossover work. Like, I haven't seen him do anything besides.
He did Godzilla Power Rangers. I think he did.
He's done other stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No, Freddy's amazing. Everything he touches turns to gold. And
One of the first commissions I ever got.
I wish that the dude was. I mean, I'm glad that he's doing what he loves, and who am I to decide the future of work of Freddie Williams? But I would love it if Freddie was just like one of the it creators, like the creators of Can you imagine if Freddie was on Wolverine Revenge? It would look a whole lot better. And yeah, and I think Freddie, again, he's not paying me to say this. And you can go back in the archives all the way back.
Oh, you love Freddie
Williams. I
Williams.
love Freddie Williams.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's just
I hate that he's digital, but he's great.
His Captain Atom stuff is, oh my God, it's so good. It is so freaking good.
And you've got character designs in the back of this first issue. His character designs are more detailed than most artists' regular published work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think this was a strong triple. Yeah. I liked it a lot. It's just that this is just me. And again, Tim knows, like, I'm not criticizing his approach to writing. It's a critique, right? There's a big difference between criticism and critique. Critique elevates, criticism denigrates, right? There's, to my eyes, the only thing that was a little bit off about this issue was that recap, and it's a personal thing. I wanted to see all that stuff play out. It's a ballsy move, and I give him props for doing it. Yeah, I think this issue's fun, great. Yeah, I want more. When it comes out I bought the physical. When it comes out in hardcover, hopefully I'll buy that. I'll eat it up. Yeah.
Word up. Word.
Yep. And I saw the figures at Target. Some of them. They're really cool, but they're a little on the expensive side. But that's true for every figure these days, right? I think they're like.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the one I saw was approaching $30.
I was gonna say the G.I. Joe classifieds are 30 plus now. If there was anything extra with them, like if they throw an animal, like if the character has an animal rocket launcher, it's $30+.
So weird. I mean, because we've existed for the number of decades we have, do you think that that's an old guy syndrome where it's like, holy shit, I could have bought this back in the day for like $7, $6? Like, do you think? It's
part that, but it's also part that the buyers of this stuff have continued to dwindle, such that the companies feel the need to charge collector prices because A, they think they can, and B, there's not enough. If they were selling it for $10, it's not like they don't think anymore, right or wrong. They don't believe that kids would be out there buying them.
I think one of the reasons why McFarlane blew up the way he did was he was producing at the time extremely detailed figures, far more detailed than anything else available, at a price point in line with the other toy manufacturers. And I think people looked at his work and was like, wow, look at this. This is action figures all grown up, and it's not blocky, and it's not, shoulder and leg joints only. This thing is moving. It has articulation and it has detail and people look at the cape. Like, when did you ever see an action figure with a cape that flowed around the character? And just, he elevated the art of making action figures, and everybody followed suit. And now we're at a point where they're all basically at that level or higher. Like, I think the G.I. Joe figures are in line with what McFarlane does these days. Like, they're super detailed, they're articulated. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of extra bits that they add to it. So everybody's pretty much on the same level. So I don't think there's anybody doing anything that is head and shoulders above someone else like it was when McFarlane first came out. You remember those Marvel figures, right? Those Toy Biz Marvel figures? They were sure. Oh, here comes Cable. He looks like a Roblox figure. Like,
yes.
So yeah, good times. Oh boy, let's take a look. Oh, hey, we got to do it in your travels. Hey, everybody. Wow. Well, if we could talk more, I have another thing to talk about. I don't see that.
What, you got like a 5-hour sauce on the stove. You need to
go. No. Yeah, I want to talk about this book because I don't want to just glance at it. I want to get into it. It's from Silver Sprocket.
Of course, it is.
Yes. If it wasn't for New York Review Books, Silver Sprocket. I shouldn't say that because they're both unique and they both produce wonderful work. This book is called When to Pick a Pomegranate.
Yeah.
And it's by Yasmeen. I'm going to butcher it. I'm sorry, Yasmeen. It's by Yasmeen Abedifard. Okay, I'm going to run with that. Abedifard. It's an amazing book in that the chapters of this book are titled in line with the life cycle of a plant. They are seed, sprout, propagation, flower, ripe, rotten, and ferment. And for each chapter heading, you also get the Persian translation or approximation of the title. And thank you, Google Translate, because I would not know what those little squiggles were without it. So you ever used Google Translate on the phone where you just...
Many times, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And some of the translations were dead on. Others were in the neighborhood of what the title was. So I'm going to run with the Persian being the translation of the English for each chapter heading. Because this book is about two organisms. Two inextricably linked organisms. One is a woman named Julie, Guli, and she goes through the entire narrative completely nude, stripped of any kind of guise other than the way she came into the world. She is relatively pure and pristine and unfettered. And the other organism is an anthropomorphic pomegranate named Anar, or Anar, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And essentially the book is, each chapter is like a conceptual prompt. It's amazing how Yasmeen does so much with seemingly so little. And what I mean by that is the stories aren't complex, or the chapters aren't complex, but they speak to things that everyone has encountered in relationships. Like the one, my favorite chapter is called Flower. And in it, Anar is an artist. And he fashions Julie out of clay. He builds her. She is his feminine ideal. He thinks she's absolutely perfect. He sculpts her, he paints her, he adds all the details, and he's hugging her, and he says, "Oh man, I wish you were here with me." And she comes to life and becomes his muse. Number one, it's not a good idea for an artist to build their muse. Traditionally, muses come to you. Their path somehow intersects with yours. You don't seek a muse; it comes to you. But anyway, so he fashions her as his muse. And the thing about this chapter that I find so intriguing is Julie, his muse, tells him things that he does not want to hear. Like, she is brutally honest with him, to the point where she embarks on this litany of like, you're just a bad person. It's easier for you, to be numb so you don't have to feel anything. And she keeps going and going. And he's like, all right, stop. I get it. Conceptually, it's like, that's absolutely brilliant, because more often than not, our muse will whisper things in our ears that we do not want to hear, or that we're not ready for, or that are just repulsive to us, yet we don't want to accept it, because who wants to find fault with themselves? Anybody? I don't know. I don't think you guys do. I don't actually appreciate it when I notice a chink in my armor, or a fault in my personality, or whatever. And I just think this chapter is glorious in that the muse basically puts him in his place and tells him things that are very, very distasteful to him. And the last panel of this, he goes back to his studio and he draws a creature with two heads, one of which is his, that is crying, and the other is Julie's, as this beast with horns. So again, it just hammers home the fact that these two characters are inseparable. They are linked on a level that they really can't exist without each other. And that's what this book is. Each chapter is an investigation of what people in a relationship do to other people. Like in the chapter called Rotten, Einar infects Julie to the point where she just starts to melt. And he gladly melts with her. Like, whatever it is about him or his personality transferred to her in a negative way, where it made her something less than she was. But they go down together. They just melt into this pile of pink and red ooze forever. And it's odd, because it seems like in a lot of these chapters they're meeting for the first time. And that plays into the narrative where this godlike entity starts the book, and you just see it by a hand that comes into the frame, and it tells them, there are things that are going to happen that are way beyond your control. You're on a path that has been largely preordained for you, and life is about cycles. And at the end of the book, it comes to fruition. The cycle ends and it begins again. And ideally, you should go back to the first chapter and read it again, because cycles are very important to this book. This book is peak. Mia taught me that word. Peak. Nice. Yes. It visually, it comes off like a risograph book. It looks like a risograph book to me, but the rendering is
this on the Riz.
The rendering is just absolutely organic and gorgeous and rough and unfettered. It obviously it has a DIY feel to it, but there's an artsy printmaking aspect to it too. It's strange. There's a number of aesthetics, or a number of approaches working in tandem, and they appear to be at odds, but they're not. When you pull back and you look at the entire book, like some chapters have canned type, like fonts, and other chapters have handwritten or hand rendered lettering. It's one chapter's in all caps. Looks like Arial to me. Maybe not, but it's just it is an earthy book, and I loved it immensely. Can't wait till I know you guys have it. You just haven't read it.
Yes, I did receive it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, I can't wait till you read it because again, it's another one of those things that it's a favorite. I think it's really, really well done, and it gives you concepts on which to mull over well after you've read the book.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
I said,
I'm looking at her website right now, and it seems like a lot of her comics to date have been plant-centric. She's very into plants.
She should.
Nice.
Yeah. In Propagation, Julie pulls off a piece of Einar. She rips off his arm, and she puts it in water, and it starts to propagate. And I think when we enter into relationships, especially long-standing relationships, we do kind of like pull apart and mangle those we've decided to share our existence with, right? It's
oh yeah,
it's very insightful.
I'm intertwined with you fucks way more than I ever thought I would.
Right? Yeah, it's like what kind of pile of shit did I step in 15 years ago? But gladly, I would step in it again. I just think this book is absolutely amazing, and I implore you to read it. It's called "When to Pick a Pomegranate" from Silver Sprocket by Yasmeen Abedifard, and it's only $15.
It is on the side table downstairs in the living room, waiting for me to read. I just haven't been down there much the past few days.
Yeah. Yep. The pair are often visually represented as a one organism with two heads. So that says a lot. That these two characters are bonded in some way where they've become a single organism. It's great. Yep. Conceptually, visually, narratively, it's great. Yep.
Right on.
Yep.
Silver Sprocket doing it again.
Killing it.
Again and again.
Silver Sprocket rules, okay? They really do.
Silver Sprocket makes your little rocket.
Don't bring it down. What else do we have? We want to talk about something else before we move on to New Travels? There's lots of room.
I checked out. It seemed interesting because of the setting, because of the era, and because there's Yiddish right there on the cover. But Dark Horse,
Macher.
Yeah, the Mass Macher, which was written by David A. Goodman, art by Alexandre, colors by Gonzalo Duarte, letters by almost like Alliteration Day, Mauro Mantella, and it the art services the story well enough. But it's about an actor in early 30s Hollywood who is on his way to an audition, but ends up getting a flat tire in front of an arena that where they house wrestling matches. So there's a woman sitting outside the building, tells the guy that asks him if he can wrestle, because there's a gig inside that as long as he can fit into this suit, fit into these trunks and this mask, then he can wrestle for the night and make $5. And so he does, since he can't get to the he's got time to kill. There's a guy outside who can fix the tire. So while he wrestles and finds out in real time what's involved in a wrestling match, has his match. The tire is fixed. He makes his way to an audition, and this is when Cliff will love the issue, because as he's leaving the lot after the audition, he bumps into Humphrey Bogart, but things really don't go the way he expected based on the audition. Ends up going back the next day for another bout, and then the last couple pages are a little bonkers, because he's about to wrestle a bear, a real live bear. But we get but then it looks like the narrator of the story is the bear, and the bear is sitting across from either a reporter or a psychiatrist, and talking about how that's the day he met Tony and his life changed forever. And in the next issue, I guess we'll continue the match between the masked Macher and the bear. But I figured, we get the previews from Dark Horse. I figured I'd give it a shot. It amused me more than I thought it would. I didn't. I went in thinking not much, but I'm slightly interested to see how the second issue goes, just because I have a couple of questions, and I'd like to see what the answers are. But it's I don't know really who the audience is. It's hard to say that it's for wrestling fans. It's hard to say that it's for fans of early talkie movies. But it is what it is. I like I said, I enjoyed it way more than I expected to. But it was something I gave a shot to. But yeah, I'll definitely peruse the next PDF that Dark Horse sends, just to see where it's going from there. But that was what I had before we get to our Your Travels.
Nothing makes people race out and buy a comic like a reviewer saying, "Yeah, I mean, when they send me the to review again, I'll check it out."
Yeah, well,
check it out.
Yeah, well, Dap is way more willing to read stuff.
Yeah,
than we are.
But
I would open
also,
this book and be like, "Yeah, I'm done."
I'm done. Right? No, absolutely.
The Yiddish, it was like moth to flame. He saw the
right.
Yiddish.
Yeah.
I want to see how it's represented. I want to see. Listen, if it's like Vincent a Duck book. It's right. Like you and a Joe book. It's like, listen, there's something there. So I'm willing to give something a shot. But it is real easy for me to walk away from something, even if it's like in the middle of a page of a story I'm not digging. So
yeah.
Which circles back to a conversation that a lengthy thread, thanks to Caleb, regarding how we feel about current books, big two or otherwise, which is a reminder to let you all know that we do have a lot of fun with the patron perks, whether it's the bonus episodes or fun and games on the Slack. But
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that. You know what we're going to do? This is what we're going to do. We haven't ironed out the wrinkles yet, but for the patrons, what we do every month is we'll release a multi-hour audio file. I don't want to call it an episode because it's all of this stuff we talk about before and after recording every episode. And this month's is going it's to the right of 4 hours. So it's a lot of stuff. But what we're going to do someday in the future, like I said, the mechanics of actually doing it are still being deliberated, but we're going to release video only for the pre and the post show. So you could get video of us just shooting the shit on Discord, or you can wait and listen to the audio version of it. I think it's kind of neat that because Discord allows you to do video as well as audio, and it's a magic tool. So why not exploit the fact that we can record video? It's just another perk that we want to throw at the patrons for supporting us, because I'm telling you, it helps out immeasurably. We would not be able to do a lot of the things we do if not for the patrons. So
and now that we're getting comfortable with Discord, we're also talking about ways that we might be able to integrate some live patron interaction with us as well. We haven't quite figured out how that should look, but we have the capability to do it now pretty easily. So
yes, so we may have an episode where it's a free-for-all. We're just going to sit back and let the patrons come to us on Discord, pop on the episode, say their piece, talk about a book they're enjoying, and then get the hell out.
Or we can take questions. We can people that are in the Discord. We can bring them in for a question, and
fun. It's all fun, and you can only find it at patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. There you go. Also, if you want to save and save big, go to cheapgraphicnovels.com. That's cheapgraphicnovels.com. Omnibus editions, trade paperbacks, manga, omnibus. I said omnibus. OGNs, artist editions, all that stuff. All of it is available at Cheap Graphic Novels for a fraction of what everybody else is paying. And please leave us a review somewhere. We have a couple of new ones. We're grateful for those, but we'd like a couple.
Would be great.
Yeah, we'd like a couple more. Just if you're enjoying this crap, let us know. Or if you're not, give us
It's amazing how much the culture of that has changed, right? Like when we started the show and like anybody listening to a podcast raced to give reviews. I mean, we had hundreds a year. I feel like maybe because everybody just podcasts on their like mobile devices.
Well, when we started, everybody and their brother was listening to comic podcasts. It was like the thing.
No, but I mean also the culture then was to leave reviews. People leave reviews. But these days, I mean, even I hear like really trouble getting reviews. It's just
you're breaking up. Breaking up a little bit, buddy. So, in your travels, hypocritical to the fact that I don't read Big Two books anymore, I have been committed to finishing Venom War. I will read.
That is absurd to me. That
it is.
Wow. Okay.
I do love the symbiotes. Okay.
You do.
I do. Really do.
And I don't know if this is praise or damnation, but I read Venom War Daredevil. It is written by Chris Condon, art by Lan Medina. Yen Nitro did the color. It was fine. I'm not completely sold on Elektra as Daredevil. I think it's just a shtick, and it will run its course, and eventually Matt will be Daredevil again. So I mean, let them have their fun. But the one thing that got me in this issue, and the burden falls entirely on the writer, Chris Condon. We know that the symbiotes are very susceptible to high frequency sound. Right? They don't like it. They hate it. Mm-hmm. It makes them crumble.
Yeah, they kind of telegraphed that right at the start.
Yeah, at one point in the story, Elektra takes her size and she clangs them over her head. And in this magic make-believe world, the resonance of those two sides clanging was enough to fell a whole bunch of symbiotes. And I thought, Chris, my man, you don't know how sound works. That's not how sound, because number one, the length of a psi blade is what? Maybe 12, maybe 16 inches, right? And it's tapered, which means the bulk of the blade is at the base, right? It's thicker at the base and it tapers to the point. So if you clang two 16-inch blades over your head, number one, how are size manipulated? They have handles. There are hands gripping those handles. So those hands are going to act as sound dampeners. They're going to absorb a lot of that sound. So this sequence is completely make-believe. There's no way in any reality that two sighs clanged above a person's head would produce a frequency capable of doing what it did. It just doesn't, it would never happen. And I know, I don't like to say it takes me out of the story, but when I experienced this page, I'm like, that's not how this works. This is just wrong. This doesn't make any sense. And I was pretty much done for the rest of the issue. But again, it was fine. You know, it's just another chapter in the Venom War. Let's bring Elektra as Daredevil into it. It's wonderful. You know, whatever. It is what it is. Was it great? Other than Lan Medina's art, which I think was pretty damn powerful in some spots, I don't think it was a major addition to the Venom War story, especially when there are physics going on that don't make any sense. It just doesn't happen that way. Did you feel the same way, Dap? Like, wasn't that silly? It's a turning point. It's a turning point in the fight. Like, Elektra's in pretty much, she's in big trouble because she's surrounded by all these symbiotes, and she goes clang, and they all just like, whoop, they buckle. Like, so silly. It would never work that way.
I mean, if you wanted to stun one that, and you were close enough to them where you bang the sides against each other or clang them against each other, and maybe that could give a little bit of feedback. But as far as, a whole gang of them, and because she did it with one, and it barely phased, and then she does it with the second one, and it's like, oh, okay, now we got a badass.
I mean, look at a triangle, right? A triangle is suspended from a very thin, call it a thread, call it whatever. And a triangle has resonance because there's not much to dampen the sound. It just rings and rings and rings and rings and rings. Her hands are going to absorb a lot of that sound. She's going to nullify it and dampen it. This just would not work. And I know this is stupid of me to go on and on like this about this one little part of an issue that wasn't really all that good, but this is my mindset. Like, I see something like this, and it's just like, this is dumb. Do your research. This would not happen. So yeah, read Venom War, Daredevil if you want. I don't know. I don't really care.
Or not.
Or not. It's just, yeah.
I'm glad we started the episode off strong.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's silly. It's so silly.
But
again, we're talking symbiotes. It should be silly, I guess. Whatever.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I mean, as soon as we get past the intro page and we see what Father Harvey is having brought into the church, and it's like, oh, okay, it's a giant bell. Well,
that would work.
We know what hates. We know what symbiotes hate.
Yes, the bell definitely. I'm on board with the bell.
Right. So I mean, we kind of knew exactly, no matter how much. Yeah, and that's the other. Yeah, she didn't even bang them on the ground. She just bang them together. Yeah.
Why not for that page? Why not just use the bell? Like, rewrite the story where it's not her size.
So that the bell
it's the bell. Yeah. That would be perfectly.
Yeah, you definitely could have tweaked the story so that it would have it would have logically flowed and made sense to. But yeah, I mean, they just wanted to show Elektra in action. They could have done it
right, and a well-made pair of sais. The blade is part of the handle. The handle's just wrapped in whatever, but the metal continues into the handle of the sai. So again, her hands are dampening that sound. It's just stupid, dumb.
Some of the art reminded me of older Linil Yu from back in the X-Men 100 days.
Yep.
Which is not a dig at all. I like Medina a lot.
Me too. Yeah. The one thing this issue did is make me hungry for a readable Daredevil series.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, join the club. I've been clanging that bell for.
Yeah. I didn't care for who was the last Daredevil it guy, Zdarsky?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff didn't do anything for me. I wasn't feeling Cicchetto's art on it either.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was there because of Cicchetto, but even that couldn't keep me on after the first couple of issues.
But I want somebody super solid, maybe coax Frank back to Daredevil. I don't know. That would be like the perfect storm. But just get somebody really, really good on an ongoing Daredevil and get Elektra out of the suit, put Matt back in the suit. Like, these nostalgia again, right? I want to relive those days when Daredevil was the book to read. And it hasn't been the book to read, at least as far as I'm concerned, for like decades. Whatever. I'm going to shut up.
I got you.
Jason's like, bruh, bringing us down. The thing about the bear that triggered something, there was a YouTube guy who went into a bear's den and stayed there until the bear came back. And he recorded his interactions with the bear. Like, talk about that's suicidal on a level, that you would go into a bear's den, an empty bear's den, and wait for that bear to come back. What is wrong with you? It ended well. The bear was not extremely hostile to him. He got out of the den unscathed, but like, it could have went very, very bad. Like, he would have been a Darwin Award winner. Like, that's something you don't do. But I'm just thinking, like, that triggered it when you said he was, the masked mocker was wrestling a bear. I had a bear in my yard the other day. I went out to walk. Nice. I went out to walk the dogs, and I looked to my right, and there's a fucking bear. And I just pulled the dogs in. I'm like, okay, see ya. Like, who wants to mess with
real quick?
Who wants to mess with a bear? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. Yeah. It was a black bear, so in the hierarchy of bear dangerousness, black is below brown. So okay, but it was still a bear.
Yeah, and still a bear.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna keep my distance and be like, it's all you, bro. I'm encroaching in your territory. We're
right. Sorry, I've chewed up too much time on stupidity.
Never.
It's towards the end. You could have fast forwarded it over. Whatever.
Oh snap.
Yeah.
They will, because it's my turn before they get to Jason. So you have there's two specials, both from DC. So from A to Z, but I'm going to start with the Z first, and I'm just going to briefly touch on it because the main character isn't. So the book no one asked for, the 0 Hour 30th Anniversary Special, which was written by Dan Jurgens and Ron Mars, has art by Darryl Banks, and Darryl's style has changed a little bit since the 90s, which is fine. You got Darryl Banks, you've got Kelly Jones, which it's not the best Kelly Jones I've seen. I think his recent Dracula work is much, much better. You've got some Tom Grummett, and with inks by Norm Rapmond. You've got Jerry Ordway, you've got Paul Pelletier and Howard Porter. Dan Jurgens with Brett Reading on his inks. So it's not an anthology. The story is pretty much just pretty much focuses on Kyle Rayner, and he is apparently this story takes place before the events of Green Lantern number 8. I don't know which era of Green Lantern, but Kyle is on this planet and he gets pulled into this portal by a Wally West Flash. It doesn't look like any Wally West we know, which now brings Kyle into another universe. This is a little splinter verse that Parallax, Hal Jordan as Parallax, or Parallax as Hal Jordan, is kind of created for himself, where Coast City is the premier spot in the country. And there are all these... The Superman and Batman were both... Well, Superman died after Doomsday, never returned, and Batman never recovered after his back was broken from Bane. And so the next generation is kind of... So Donna is basically Wonder Woman, and Batgirl is Gotham's protector. Grayson, who we never see, and apparently might be a little overweight because Barbara says to the cops to tell him to lay off the donuts. Grayson is the commissioner. So Kyle is trying to get back home while maybe saving this universe, saving this world, which is kind of a fool's errand. But it also looks like it may be something that leads into a future event with Parallax and possibly written by Jurgens. I don't know. It was kind of left open-ended. But I read it just because I wanted to see how closely connected it was to Zero Hour. If there was something that I missed from that event way back when. It's a one-shot for anybody who's who was around reading Zero Hour at the time. I'd be curious to know. Anybody other than Hassan wants to tell me what they thought about it. I'd be curious to know. But Absolute Power Super Son, I really enjoyed because for the most part the art is handled by John Timms, and then you have some pages by Travis Mercer, written by Cine Grace and Nicole Maines. Nicole Maines, of course, doing some writing because Dreamer is in the issue for a little bit. But it's basically it's slides right in between Absolute Power 3 and 4 because John is on the Themyscira recuperating after Brainiac Queen was excised from him, and so a lot of the story in the issue takes place inside his head, trying to fight off this virus, and it's a great looking issue, but I'm stoked to see where John and everybody brings us to in Absolute Power number 4. And there's some moments with John and his boyfriend Jay because Dreamer killed Jay's mother, and it's hard for him, and because Dreamer was killed in this event, Jay's fine with that. He's like, listen, I'm not mourning this chick, but but John, of course, because Dreamer helped John basically kick the habit. He feels that he owes Dreamer something. So there's a little bit of some friction for a few panels. But they're both looking. John just once they take care of Waller and everything that she's done. John basically just wants to take Jay, move to San Francisco, and just live life. So hopefully, when Absolute Power wraps up, maybe that can happen. But I thought the art by Timms was great. The any story I get where John gets to be featured, I'm more than not I'm going to enjoy. But yeah, in your travels, if you're reading Absolute Power, I'm sure you're already going to read this. But if you've been missing some John Timms artwork, Absolute Power Super Son.
Why don't they
could use some more Tims in my life?
Why don't they just kill Amanda Waller?
I don't think you can.
It's the whole Batman Joker thing. Why don't they just kill her?
Yeah,
just
or Reed and Doom, or it's not going to happen.
After this event, though, they need to put her on ice for a while.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes, I'd be fine with that.
Even in the cinematic stuff, she's omnipresent in the movies. It's like I don't care about Amanda Waller.
Well, it's not that I don't care. It's just that at this point, she's literally taken over the world. So it's just okay. So, this is Rick Remender has an imprint at Image called he has a production company called Giant Generator. And to date, all of the comics that have come out of Giant Generator have been written by Rick himself. So this was notable to me because it's the first comic under the Giant Generator imprint that is not written. And that is The Tin Can Society, #1 of a 9-issue limited series. It's written by Peter Warren, who, if you don't know the name, I don't blame you. He's mainly a screenwriter, as I understand it. And I think his big claim to fame is that he wrote the upcoming Inkle movie. So we'll see how that goes. I can't react to whether that's a good or a bad thing yet because we haven't seen it. But it's written by Peter Warren and it's drawn by Francesco Mobili, who I think does great work. I'm a fan of his work. And it is, at its heart, a murder mystery. It's set in the future where there's a character named Johnny Moore. He is disabled. As a youngster, he's unable to walk. And he's a bit of a tech genius, kind of like your Mr. Terrific or Tony Stark. And so fast forward, and he has become a tech billionaire because of his ability to build technology. And part of that is he has created very high end, not prosthetics, devices to help people's mobility, including himself. So he's got basically exoskeletal legs that allow him the ability to walk. And he's also like Mr. Terrific or Tony Stark. He is also a costume vigilante known as Caliburn. But for all of that said, in the first issue, he's killed. And so the question then, I assume for the next 8 issues, is who done it? And it's believed that whoever killed him is more than likely one of the lifelong childhood friends that he had. They were all known as the Tin Can Society. And we meet all of those friends and see some flashbacks. And I presume we will then, delve further into their lives since they were kids and what they've been up to and who might have done it. But really cool first issue. I love a good whodunit. So 2 thumbs up. Long way to go, but Peter Warren, you did a good job with your first ever comic issue. So, Tin Can Society, Image Comics.
Nice. Can you imagine somebody walking up to you? Hey, we would like you to adapt the Inkle for the movies.
I know.
My intestines would fly out my butthole.
I know.
Yeah. What do you do?
Crazy.
How do you do it? Yeah, it's a big job.
Yep.
Well, everybody, we thank you for being here with us one more time. We hope you come back next time because we'll have sandwiches and cookies and comics and all that stuff. Get yourself to a comic shop, read them, buy them, talk about them online. Come back here. We'll be talking about more. We just want to share the love, spread the love of comics because they're the best things on the planet. And say goodnight. What's his name again?
Mm-hmm.
Emotional damage.
David.
Good night. David.
Nice.
And 3 weeks from the recording of this episode, we will be knee deep in New York Comic Con.
Yeah, who's going? We got our badges today. All of us. Trifecta.
All of us.
Trifecta of badges.
Badges.
Who else is going? If you're going to go to New York Comic Con, yeah, look for us. We'll be there. Well, you know we're going to be there. It's like home
we
base.
definitely will. We don't have anything planned yet, but if we get enough pings that people will be there, we'd love to have one of the nights where we meet up for a couple cocktails, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So we'll see about making that happen.
If you're looking for Dap and myself, chances are real good we'll be at the Ghost Machine booth. Jason doesn't like good stuff, so he won't be there. So we love it.
Well, except for the hour you set aside for the symbiote.
The what?
The symbiote panel.
Oh, we never go to panels, dude. We only go to panels when you moderate them.
Oh,
no, you go. You just don't pay attention.
Yeah, we do. We had a good time.
what's this one about again?
Yeah. Oh, we did. It was the Sanford Green one. It was the bitter.
I know you did.
Yeah, no,
you
it
represent.
was, it was wonderful. Yeah.
Ironic that we still haven't had any more bitter root.
It's coming.
Is that 3 years ago? 3 years ago that was.
Well, when you're making that cake.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Spider-Verse.
For real.
Thanks, Felix.
Yep.
Thanks, Felix.
We love you so. Maybe we'll see Mr. Pope again. And he'll lie to us again.
I believe it was his birthday today.
Was it?
I think so.
It's like, don't even open your mouth, dude. It's all lies. It's all lies that come out of your mouth. You're real good. One of the best. But don't lie to me. I'm not liking it. Who are you, Liam Sharp?
I'll be at the other end of the table hanging out with BKV. My boo.
Yeah. Where's Jason's hands? Jason's under the table. We're out of here. We love you so much. Tell them that. Tell them.
Love you
Love
so
y'all.
much.
Hope to see a bunch of you in a few weeks.
That's it for that one.